welcome to the Kongsi Ideas. Yeah, I believe as Silvo earlier on have introduced some of the why we have the Kongsi Ideas, and this course section is organized by Kongsi Co-op. The reason we have a Kongsi Ideas, we believe that we hope that this is a platform and a channel where to get together everyone, everyone they can have their own story, which is their unique life story that we hope that we can get all these kind of friends, yeah, they can share with us their life experiences or the stories so that we could learn and we could enjoy in their journey as well. Some experience we don't have to experience by our own, but through their story and through their life experience, we also feel part of it. Yeah. So this month is the seed month. Yeah. So the topic, of course, we would like to share with you is about seed. Yeah. Every month we have a theme, as earlier on as Silvo introduced. Yeah. So this month is talk about seed. So of course, if we like, when we're thinking who can share about this topic, and Yong Ling, suddenly popped in all our mind. Why? I get to know Yong Ling not long actually, but if you know Yong Ling, everyone, if you know Yong Ling, right, he always carry one thing with him, yeah. And then when we have a chit chat and a conversation, definitely after he will put up, take it from magic bag and show us it's all kind of a seed, different kind of seed. And to me, I'm not familiar with it, but I'm so impressed, on why this young man, they instead of bringing others like mobile phone or 3Cs, this gadget, but he brings along, carry along the seed with him. Yeah. So, and of course, after get to know him better, yeah, he has the intention and purpose in life, about the seed saving thing. Yeah. So let me have a brief introduce about Yong Ling. Yong Ling sits on Kongsi board. Yeah, he was also one of the 4 co-founders of Lung Collective, and with the aspiration to empower those rural subsistence farming community. And we hope that to create a more sustainable food system that is accessible for everyone. Yeah, I think this can be, this experience, we can be part of another story. Next time we can invite him again to share another kind of story. So in 2022, then he moved all the way to a farmhouse in Cenderam, Perak. Yeah, those who are Perak people, I think may know this is a small town. Yeah, but and then where he start to experience a way of sustaining living. Yeah. So what it means that he grow your own food and continue, of course, to grow his own food and to have their own lifestyle, another kind of lifestyle in a small town and in a small farmhouse, and also continue in cultivating local heirloom seed. Yeah. So this is one of the reason, like one of a very good reason, and I think everyone can't wait to hear Yong Ling's story. So why seed? And I remember one of the speakers like Vandana Shiva, he said there's no life without seed. So it seems like a seed is so important and it's the main source of the life. Yeah? So why and how, why we have to take this so seriously, and why it is crucial for us to pick up this long lost skill. Yeah. So I would like to invite Yong Ling to give us this wonderful sharing. Pass over to you, Yong Ling.
Thank you, Samantha, for the introduction. Good evening, everybody. I'm Yong Ling. I will share my screen first. Wait a second. Can you all see? Can you see my screen? Okay, good. All right. So I think Kongsi people know me as this crazy guy who always carry the ziploc bags and the seeds along with me, right? So I've been collecting seed whenever I go. So I think that's why Samantha invited me to talk about seeds, right? So I consider myself a half farmer. So one is because I'm not from farmer background. I'm a graphic designer. And second is I always go get for other stuff, which I will talk about it later in the sharing. So this sharing, I try to make it not so technical. So it's actually my personal journey, which somehow related to seeds. So you can interrupt me anytime. You can ask question in chat. So try to make it more interactive because it's 1.5 hour session. It's quite long once I heard it. So yeah, otherwise I'll be talking alone, right? So let's start it. So I think first, let's have a little quiz. So can you see this plant? Anyone see this plant before or recognize what is this plant? Can you just give a thumbs up? So I know. Anyone see this plant before? All right, I see Jennifer. All right. So most of, yeah, there are more people. Okay. So, and it's actually a very common weed along the roadside.
Dandelion.
It's not.
It's
So
not
it's not dandelion. Almost is look alike. So it's not dandelion.
in
So
Thailand, they serve food that they put the flower on top, in Thailand.
yes. So it's very common, I think, even in Malaysia. So Spanish needle, yes.
Is it edible?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait. You see the screen. Okay. So this plant is actually, we call it coat buttons, or in the Malay, it's called kancing baju. So it's one of the chrysanthemum family. So in fact, you can also make tea with it. It tastes exactly like chrysanthemum, like
Chrysanthemum. Oh, okay.
just a little bit milder. So the little flower, you can just pluck it, you can just make tea with it. So it has a medicinal property, but I won't talk about it. Just from the plant itself. So when you see this plant, like what this plant or its seeds is trying to tell us. So the seeds, as you can see, have a little wings on top of it. So which means it propagates by winds. So, and the place it grows must be hot and dry. Otherwise, the wings are caught by the moisture and will be too dense to fly. So it also tells us the condition about the soil. So that's why you can see it actually almost everywhere along the roadside, because there's a lot of car, it's dry, and the wind brought by the car help it to propagate the seeds. So every weed actually is trying to tell us something. So it's very useful in farming because we can know the condition of the soil by just observing the weeds. So although we can see this plant almost everywhere, but it's not native to Malaysia. So it came from Mexico, all the way from Mexico. So how this little seed fly across ocean and landed here? So anyone know? I think it's not as food, so it must be other reason. Why? So it cannot fly by itself. There's no way, almost impossible. So one of the possible reasons is because it's beautiful.
Oh.
With its little cute flower. So why? I think around 15th centuries, during the age of exploration, like it's a period of time where like the European nations begin to explore the world. So they discover new routes to India, Far East, and Americans. So plants also travel across the world by them. So they brought it as food, trade items, and also aesthetic value. So the European, especially the British, they like gardening. So they like to build these cottage houses decorated by plants which they collected along their journey and make it feel like their home. So in Malaysia, you can see a few places with it, like Fraser Hills, like the Maxwell Hill. So you can see all these houses around built by them. So all these plants been brought in. So like chrysanthemum, the roses, the cosmos, all these plants essentially is not food, but that, and most of the ornamental plants we've seen today actually are brought in by them. So it's just because of the beauty of it. So sometimes it's also create troubles because some of them are invasive, so become noxious weeds. like these little coat buttons. So some farmers actually do have them because there are weeds everywhere. So seed is beautiful. We cannot deny that, like almost like our human natural instinct to appreciate beauty stuff. So either by itself or the plant, because we want to plant a plant, we need to get a seed. So seed is beautiful. So it's also for me the reason why I began to collect seeds. So there are so many types of seeds. So we hear a lot of names like F1 hybrid, and we talk about heirloom seed nowadays, or native seed, GMO seed. Like what are all these things? So I think I'll begin with native seed. So what I mean by native seed? Native seed means it's been here since probably we are not even here, like our indigenous people. They are here far along any history recorded, they're already here. So we call it the native. So they've been here, they well adapt, it's part of the whole ecosystem. So we call it the native plants. So the second one would be the heirloom seed. So heirloom seed is like our three races in Malaysia, the Malay, Chinese, and in India. We come from outside, we stay here for many, many generations. We're having families, kids, children, grandchildren. So we adapted to the environment, then we become the heirloom. So it's neutralized, we call it that the plants have been neutralized, they will adapt. So it's almost like very easy to find it everywhere. So the third thing up, we have the hybrid. So this is the most common one you can see in the shop, in the store. You can buy it. They usually call it F1 hybrid. So what we mean by F1 hybrid is like one of us Malaysian, we married a foreigner. So we're having a new breed. So they're having a special characteristic, like the bronze hair, blue eyes. So, but you not necessarily get it on the first kid. So you probably get it on the second or third. So by chances. But eventually, if they stay long enough here, they will become the heirloom. So it's still considered part of the ecosystem. It's not, it's still acceptable. So if you buy the hybrid seed, it managed to survive. It can produce a seed, then the seed you can plant again. I think you somehow, sometime you will, we call it revert back the old characteristic of an ancestor. So sometimes then you get different type of looks by just one hybrid seed. So usually we plant these three types of seeds, but we prefer heirloom and native. So hybrid, if you want to plant it, you try to collect the seeds and replant again. So the third one is GMO. So this is the one that we're having a lot of questions unknown about it. So what I mean by GMO is genetically modified seeds that actually altered the genetic code within. So to get some outcome or characteristic they prefer. So some they like a bigger fruit, sweeter fruit, or some even they actually injected the antibiotic within, like for animal feed. So we actually don't know what is the side effect of it, because the time we have got it is actually still too short for us to know. So it's actually quite dangerous. So that's why we're trying to avoid it, because we don't know what it will cause. Some known danger or the side effect we already know, but this thing is still, for me, is the unknown. And when humans try to tamper with this kind of thing, we don't know what we are playing with. So GMO seeds is one thing we're trying to avoid. But they already have some in Malaysia, and it may cause the contamination. We call it the genetic pollution, because it may crossbreed with the local plants, the heirloom plants, the native plant. So it can produce something that cannot control. So just now we talk about the beauty of seeds. So I've been collecting seeds since I was a kid. So I was a kampong boy from Muar, Johor, famous with its food and Namui. So for who did not know Muar, can go YouTube and just type Muar Namui. he actually wrote a song about moi. So very well described. So behind my house is a forest. So I grew up in forest. So there were a few rubber trees nearby, and it produced a lot of seeds during the season. You can hear the cracking sounds. So this one is the rubber seeds. So I think nowadays it's harder to see it. So some of you may not see it before. So it has a glossy surface and patterns. It just looked like a germs to me when I was young. So we collect them, we play games using them, like guli, chongka, or we use it to make toys. So these little toys, we call it the fan or the yo-yo fan. So using a rubber tree seeds. So you actually can see people around the world with a rubber tree are making this. So during a time, even without internet, like people see these seeds, I think natural instinct, I don't know, somehow they're trying to make this thing, because these seeds have the hole on top. You can simply poke through and you clear the content inside. Then you make it into a fan. So, but this little thing, this little toy is not just a toy, it's actually a complex mechanism, perfect hybrid within art and science. So you need some craftsmanship to make it, although it's just using simple satay stick and the ice cream stick. So, but if you look deep inside, it's actually using our human body, that chemical energy to pull. It created the rotation kinetic energy to turn the ice cream stick, which is the fan, and it itself created inertial. After you finish the string, it actually will rewind back, so you can pull it again. So it's like a continuous working fan. So if you want to create flowing air, you just need to make a little bit of slope on both side blade. It will create an imbalance, the different pressure, we can actually create a flow of air. So actually it's the physics behind this thing, but as a kid, we just knowing without realizing. So we just make it. So this is one example, like in nature, everything is together as one. So not like us, nowadays we differentiate very clearly, like you are science students, you're art students, so you do arts, you don't do science, or you're art student, you don't do physics, or physics, you don't draw. So I think in nature, it's not always like that. So these little seeds actually contain massive amount of information. So later on, I'm fascinated with how this little seed can grow into a huge tree. So this thing actually contains a life within. So how much information it needs to actually come out with a tree trunk? It can hold a tree and the branches, then create a leaf, which has a complex photosynthesis process just within a little seeds. So, and this eventually can grow up, become a forest. So it's just fascinating me. That's why I keep collecting after I know it, even not just because of beauty now, because they're actually alive within every single seed. So seed is life. So actually they pass down information to the next generation. Is the natural capability for seeds to actually adapt and survive. So which means every plant did survive the environment can produce the stronger next generation, which can adapt. So theoretically, if you want a plant to actually can survive the climate change, what we need to do is just keep planting. So instead of doing new research and trying to get a new solution, we already have a solution, just keep planting. So seed is life itself. So I spent most of my childhood with forest, because it's just behind my house, and I collected different types of seeds. But one day there was a bad news. The developer want to cut down the forest and do shop lots. So during that time, I was still young, so still helpless. Nothing I can do to stop them. So what I can do, I try to go to forest almost every day before they cut it down and collect as many seeds as possible. So hope one day this life can sprout somewhere else. Then although the forest is gone, but my journey with the seeds still continue. So I carry those seeds with me even now. But the question inside is still like, is it something we cannot avoid? Is it something we must sacrifice in the name of developments? I got no answer with it. So maybe because the hatred over the developments, because like science equal to developments, although I'm a science student, I want to choose to art, but art cannot make money. So I need to convince my parents. I compromise a bit. So I become a graphic designer then. So after graduated, so we have to facing the reality. So we need to work to earn money. So what we do? I think one answer, we go to KL. So I think that's always the common answer we got. So I also need to adapt and survive. So I work in a digital advertising agency for 5 years, which did the digital content. We also build physical installation. So even a graphic designer like me have to learn do animation, multimedia, video programming, front end, back end, physical computing, IoT, some interior design. So it's a bit like trying my best to survive in this kind of environment. But after 5 years, the endless OT, non-sleeping night, I think that's enough. So I decided to quit. And this time I go all the way deep into the interior of Borneo. So back to the forest again. So I joined NGO who actually do a lot of best infrastructure buildings with the indigenous community. So this is first time I met the indigenous people, the native seeds I'm talking about. So we rarely heard about them, but they've been there the whole time. So the development, the different in value system or the way of living of us, the heirloom varieties has indirectly threatened their survivability. So for example, the drastic change of environment like logging, plantation, cause them to lose their source of water and food. So because the forest is their food storage. So how we can tackle this issue? So we need to find a midway to balance both sides. Development is needed, but they still need to survive. We need to survive. How we can solve this kind of issue? So I got no answer to these kind of questions, but during that time, what we did is actually brought in some technical knowledge with us to go inside to build gravity-fed water system. So their indigenous knowledge, how to trek into the jungle, find a water source, it helped us a lot during the survey time. Then with our combined with our technical knowledge, then together we build the system together. So this the picture showing that how we get the water from about 20 kilometers away. So all this actually are built by the community itself. So without any contractor from outside. So we also built solar system, micro hydro. So that's where I meet the paddy farmers. So their self-sufficient living actually give me a culture shock with it. So this one is, I took the photo in Long Semado. So where we have all of them are paddy farmers. So they live without money. So it's hard for me to imagine, like, because in KL, right, everything is money. So everywhere you go, you need money. But during the project time we are there, we stay for a month or even more. I not even need to take out my wallet. So they got more than enough food to provide to us. So we eat a lot every day, but you don't spend money. So I think it's the difference in value, I think value system. For us, we need money to exchange of food, but for them, they produce the food directly. So it's actually quite different. So the food is somehow grown from the seeds, not purchased by the money. So they keep their own seeds and replant every year. And there's almost no cost to it. So this is probably what we've been talking about, the seeds freedom. They already achieve it. because they are so interior inside. They are off grid before they even have a road. So I think they somehow come up with a sustainable living way to live a life. So that's where I get to know seed is also food. So we can use seed to grow food. So this community, after I think stay quite some time with them, then they have a lot of good produce, especially their rice. It's organic rice. They didn't use any chemical, but they're having problem to sell it because they got more than enough to eat. Then access, they couldn't sell it because the limited access to market. So with other 3 colleagues from the NGO, we founded Langit Collective. So to tackle this kind of issue, we help them in terms of the packaging, in terms of the logistic, and the marketing to the city, to the urban area. So that's what we've been doing for a few years. And at the same time, I also learned from the indigenous people how they do the farming. So their farming is close to natural farming. There's no machinery, no chemical. So and they have their own seeds. So there's no major cost involved. So planting using the right ways and the right time, there's less labor. The land will actually provide them the foods, will actually guarantee the outcome. So I learned a lot with them. It's almost, I think, the opposite side what we've been doing, the conventional farming. So we've been told we need machinery to do tilling, plowing. You need to prepare the land. Then after that, you need to put in the fertilizer, the pesticide, herbicide, all this kind of modern formula to farming. I think we need none of them. So they've been doing that for 100 over years. So it's practical time. So after all the learning, I need to put it in practice, right? So there's no point learning but by not doing it, especially farming. So during that time, I stay in USA 2, if you know. So I rented a house there. So I got a little plot just in front of my house. It's a favorite spot for the stray cats to hang out and do their business. It's their public toilet. So it's a plot with all this their poops and the construction waste. So almost nothing can grow. I started applying the natural farming method to actually regenerate the soil. So after 2 years from that kind of soil is slow recover and turn into a mini food forest. So it's full of different types of plants. So that's how I learned throughout the way, and it continued. So when it's not enough, as you can see, it's full. So I joined the community garden in the area. So they actually section out an area for community to go and do gardening. So everyone has their own plot and stuff like that. So I farm because I don't have land myself. So I look around any place got land, I try to get my hands on it. Then a friend offered her abandoned kampong land in Sijiangkang, close to Klang, so close to our office back then. So because all their siblings moved to KL, no one stayed there. It's been abandoned for many years. So then she said, hey, why don't you go and plant there? So that's how I started. Then I turned it into a bigger version of food forest. So the way of natural farming is you not just plant one single crops. It's not monocrops. You plant diverse of plant. You can see pumpkin inside. You can see tapioca. You can see bananas. So everything is grow together. The good thing about this type of farming is you don't need any irrigation. So this is the produce from the food forest. All the pumpkins look very good and nice without pesticide and fertilizer. So then the journey continue. So like I say, go and kepo everywhere. So this is Tanjung Sepat in Selangor. So it's also a land of my friends. So it's a oil palm land. It's a pit soil. So it's very hard to deal with somehow. It's difficult to grow anything because it's very acidic. But after a few times of trial and error, I grew paddy on it. So even this kind of land, if we actually put in efforts, that the plant will grow. So the plants are stronger than we thought. Actually, they did all the hard work. So ours one consider quite light because we just sow the seed. So they do all the hard work, but we just need to plant the right way. Then I move on to the bigger. It's like as the land getting bigger, right? Now it's a community, indigenous community in Muazzam. So we work with the NGO who actually having the close relationship with the local community there. It's called Global Peace. So they come to us having issue because their land are so degraded. As you can see in the picture, it's so dry. Even the weeds cannot grow on top. So they've been planting serai, the lemongrass, and the ubi kayu, cassava, only because there's only 2 plants they can plant on this kind of soil. And when it's getting worse, some place even serai cannot grow, even the lemongrass cannot grow. So they come to us like, what can we do? So that's where I share about what I've been doing, the natural farming methods with them. So we conducted practical session. So we get them together and show them how to do. We're having test plot, and step by step we show them what we can do, because the indigenous people over here in Peninsula, we call them the Orang Asli, are a little bit different from the one in Borneo side, because in Borneo they've been settled down for more than 100 years. So they're having experience and they develop a whole culture and tradition how to plant or survive sustainably on the same piece of land. But in Peninsula, most of them are forager, the hunter and gatherers. They're forced to settle down only recently, few decades ago. They don't even have time to develop the skills and knowledge about how to farm in the same plot of land, because they've been nomad and move around. So that's how they've been farming. So I share this kind of knowledge, what I learned in Borneo side, and brought it here and share with them. So this is one of the outcome. So from a very degraded land, now they're having more than 1 types or 2 types of crops they can plant. So from just the cassava and the lemongrass, 2 types, to more than 40 types of different varieties of fruits and vegetables. So I think this is very, how would you say, amazing, like the same piece of land, the farming method actually having the great impact on it. So just within 1 year. And second phase, it continued by my friends from a later while using the syntropic agroforestry. Now their plot even become bigger. So now they can sell. So some of their produce actually they're selling to Kongsi. So they brought all the way from Muazzam to Kongsi to sell. So now they have access. So I think that's what we can do with this kind of seed saving, seed sharing, and the farming methods. So finally, I got my own farm. It's an organic farm in Cederang, Perak, but still it's a rented farm. It's not owned by me. So from pot to home garden, to community garden, to abandoned kampong land, to oil palm, the Orang Asli land, and finally an organic farm. So I still a farmer without lands, but it make me can farm everywhere. So I start to get more in depth into natural farming and seed savings. So this one interesting thing I found is many common vegetables in the market actually is all derived from one plant. So we call it the wild mustard. It's similar like the mustard plant. So they are considered the same species. So just because it's over the last few thousand of years, farmers has been breed and select the certain characteristic of the plant and grew it, and it become the plant that we know. Like the kale is because of the leaf are bigger, so they've been select the bigger leaf of the wild mustard. They've been growing it, and within the second generation, it's still picking the larger leaf and continue do so until they got the current kale, what we have in the market nowadays. So some are from the flowers, cauliflowers. So it's just the bigger flowers of the wild mustard. So technically, if we've been eating all these kind of vegetables, we are eating the same plant. So it may call malnutritious issue because they are the same plant. Technically, they're having the similar nutritious. So this is a problem because we are only eating one thing. So what else can we eat? So I think there's no much option in market because there's a demand from the consumer, or all the farmers have been planting the same thing. So what else can we eat here in Malaysia? So the answer, we probably need to ask all the way back before all these foreign vegetables be brought in. What are we eating? What the locals been eating before all this? So there are actually more than 70 types of edible leaf, or we call ulam in Malaysia. So more common one would be daun kadok, kesom, pucuk paku, pucuk ubi, bunga kantan, ulam raja, daun kunyit, terong pipit. So some you still can see they sell it in the market, but not many people know how to eat it, or they don't know what it is. So, and we got even more edible young shoots and leaves from the shrub and trees, like jambu air, asam kelugo, mata ite, cabang tiga, putat, salam, and more. So it's like there are a lot of other choices, just that because we don't know. So each of them have their unique flavors and taste. So, and also very nutritious, easy to plant. And one good thing about all these plants, most of them are perennial, which means you don't need to replant them. So most of the veggie we saw just now are actually annual. So after 2 or 3 months, you harvest, you have to replant again. There's a lot of work. But if you're planting all this kind of local edible leaf, you can harvest almost endlessly. It will regrow back and you just harvest again. So one very famous local cuisine will be the nasi ulam. So they make using all these kind of ulams or the edible leaf, they put it together. So one interesting fact is it must be odd number, otherwise the rice won't taste nice. So if you put in 3 types, 5 types, or 7, it cannot be 6 or 4. It must be odd numbers. I don't know the reason why, but all the traditional, I think the old aunties have been telling us, so it must be odd number. So another thing is lei cha, also using all this kind of edible leaf that you can get locally. So another example, the common vegetables in the market is eggplants. So, and this one, you see that there's a Chinese, why we call Chinese? Because I think it's brought in by the Chinese. It's quite difficult to grow. So it requires quite fertile soil and extra care against the pests and diseases. But there's high demand in market. So while we spend so much effort to grow this thing actually locally with more other varieties of eggplants. So they are quite resilient and easy to grow, especially those on the right side. Like terong pipit is almost like wheats. Usually we put it in curry or the Indian cuisines, but you also can eat it raw as the ulam. We got the terong bulu, and the more famous one, terong dayak, or we call it terong asam. So all these kind of other choices that we have is actually available, just that we don't know they even exist. So we keep asking for the same plant over and again. So when we demand of the Chinese eggplant, then the farmer will have to plant the Chinese eggplant. So probably it's time for us to probably get to know more of these kind of different types of plants. So with this, what the main focus in the farm right now is actually doing self-sufficient. So what I've been doing is I plant what I want to eat first, then the excess, I only sell the excess. So it's the other way of the commercial farm. So the commercial farm is they produce the crop first, they sell it and use the money to buy the food. So I think what I've been doing is I produce a food first and I use the food to exchange for money. So using natural farming, no tilling, no plowing, no chemical, is actually less level. So just plant and leave it, then harvest. So what we call it, like in Malay term, is tanam and biar. So it basically just plant and leave it. It will grow on its own. So one main challenge is our staple rice. So it's one of the most difficult thing to grow, or we not used to grow differently, because what we've been seeing is the wet paddy in like Sekinchan, the Kedah, but those require the massive infrastructure building and irrigation. So what is actually more feasible is the hill paddy. So it can grow almost everywhere. There are white, red, black, different colors, vary in sizes, flavor, and texture. And the glutinous rice also having the different color as well. So one interesting story I heard from a friend of mine who worked with indigenous community for more than 50 years. He told me there are more than 30 or 40 types of paddy, like 40 years ago, just in one village. So, but the reason being why they do so, because different rice have different property, different characteristic. Like some do like water, they like a lot of water, but some can withstand the drought. So if been hot and dry for a long period, they can survive. Some with a deep root system, some with shallow root system, some produce more, some produce less, but they plant all types of paddy every year, because the diversity will guarantee the harvest. Regardless how the weather change, they will still have at least 60 to 70% of harvest, because the way of how they plant it. So even, I think, even back then, there's no awareness about the global warming or the climate change, but they already have a solution with it. So it's like, you don't just plant monocrop, you plant diverse, and this is the solution, I think, for a lot of pests, a lot of diseases. Then it reduces a lot of work for the farmers. But the sad thing is, now when he back to the same village again, there's only left 3 varieties of the paddy. They themselves already forgot about how they've been doing, and they don't know about the different types of paddy anymore. We are losing all these kind of seeds. So I think it's quite alarming things to us. It's like, if we're not starting to actually collect and replant those seeds, we probably will lose it in another 10 or 20 years, or even shorter. So I've been searching and collect and try to plant back the heirloom paddy. So there's an interesting term about it is we call it the rewilding seeds. So we are doing the rewilding for it. So for paddy, what we've been seeing is the short varieties we planted commercially, like in Sekinchan, it's only 3 to 4 feet height because it's easy for the combine harvester. But there are different types of paddy in the heirloom varieties. So one of it is the one you can see in the picture is more than 7 feet. So I think it looks taller by me standing beside because I'm quite short, about 5 feet. But it's still a 7 feet high. And beside is the napier grass you can see. So what is the advantage of having this kind of paddy? It's actually it can compete with the other weeds, then which means you don't need to really spray any herbicide. It can grow together. It can actually survive and grow well in this kind of environment. So this is potential be another that they call it the future crops that we have been looking for. So it can withstand the hot temperature, the drastic weather, and also compete with our tropical weeds. With so many different types of seeds we mentioned, but still there are more, like what is brown rice, embryo rice, and white rice. All these are actually not the varieties of rice. They are just different level of processing. So any color of rice or variety of rice can make into brown rice. Is the polished rice, or the unpolished rice, the white rice. So they're just different process. But one interesting thing, if you notice, right, the brown rice, although it's a less processed, but it actually it fetch a higher price than a more processed rice is a white rice. Then it's become how to say, probably it's a marketing thing, or because of the market demanding, people are selling more expensive, although it's doing less process. So this is what I'm noticing in the market. But another thing, the downside of having more white rice is actually weakening our teeth and digestion system. So if you notice, like some people cannot take brown rice anymore. They say it's actually, if your digestion system are weak, if you take it, you cannot process it. Actually, we are the cause of this problem because we've been taking soft food. We thought the brown rice are too hard, but I think last time the people have been eating it with no issue. It's more nutritious because all the nutrition are actually on top of the brand itself. But because of the preference of the consumer, people are removing it and make it into white rice because it's softer, easier to choose. But actually, it's not good for us. Then now we need to take in additional supplement to actually replace the nutritious which we lost by removing the bread. But yeah, but taking supplement also will make our body become even more lazy because it's a high concentration of a nutrient. So it's like vitamin C. If you take more vitamin C's, ended up your body probably prefer to absorb from all these supplements instead of getting from the foods because they need to do more work to actually extract it. So as time goes by, then your digestive system will having more issue, your body will be more weakened, ended up you couldn't take more natural food, your body cannot process it anymore. So aside from rewilding the seeds, I think it probably need to start also to rewilding our own body by having all this kind of more natural food with us. So aside paddy, I also start to look for other ancient grain. So this is foxtail millet. So the time before rice is discovered, so people been eating millets as their staple. So it's very resilient, easy to grow, just like wheat. But now there's less people planting it because of the taste, the texture. So people choose not to planting it. So another millet is also pearl millet. So this one is more popular in Indonesia, but over here it's also very easy to grow. And there are more than 50 types of millet around. There's like huge varieties of it. Sorghum is also famous, like it's famous in winemaking, but it used to be one of the staple in Southern Asia and Taiwan. So it's suitable for our climates. And some other examples like job steers also is another optional grains that we can actually plant over here. So I think for the past 1.5 years, now in the farm, I have more than 200 species of edible plants and medicinal plants, fruit trees, and still counting. Because of the diversity, it's actually promising the food security. And that's what I believe in. So just now, the diverse planting of paddy, we actually ensure the harvest. So this also can apply to other crops. So it's just like a food forest. So you can see it's like a forest here, not like the typical farm you can see another way. So what we can do for the heirloom and native, we also can do for the commercial crops as well. So rewilding also apply for the hybrid of the F1 crops. So one thing I did is the cherry tomato. Usually you only grow in Cameroon. So now I can plant it over here in the lowland along with other weeds. So yeah, it can survive. So as I planted, it become more and more resilient and adapted to the environment here. So I think this is what everyone else can also do. So what is another? Oh, it's almost time. About an hour. So okay. I think a few months ago, if you notice the news, there's news from Cameron Highlands, there's a massive amount of food waste. Like farmers been throwing away a lot of produce because the price are so bad. If they sell it, they cannot. They even make a loss if they sell the produce. So they rather throw it away. So it's a example of mismatch of supply and demand. It's a food system issue. Like it's also a middleman issue. It's a consumer issue. I think it's quite typical nowadays. Like we've been talking about the food security, that we don't know enough food, but at the same time we have a lot of food waste. We produce a lot of food waste. We throw it away. So how we can solve this? And it's too complex. But a few years ago, I tried to tackle this issue, come up with an idea. So it's called TAMU, or it's a food system, trying to solve the issue from the technology perspective. So I have these ideas with Delphine. So we're trying to build the system out. I think even to the stage, we have the prototype, but then we realize it's not just a technical issue. So it's a much more complex system within, because if you have a very good idea, you build it out, then the competitor will start to come in. So once the bigger player comes in, then you have the typical price war within. So whoever have a deeper pocket deeper wallet will win the fight. Then they acquire the other company. It's just like Uber and Grab. So Grab just copy Uber idea. They have the war fight. Then ended up Grab won. Then acquire the how we say the shares of Ubers. Now he is the monopolized how is it? They monopolize the whole market. So I think with this kind of how is it? How the system works, I think it's hard for us to actually come up with an idea, a unique idea. We can actually solve the problem, because once you're able to solve the problem, then people see there's a profitability, then they will come in. Then the problem will continue, because what they're looking for is not solving the problem. What they're looking for is actually to make more money. So having ideas like this will never solve the issue until we meet I meet Kelly. So I think is during that time is how just got somehow called and on board as captain. Then I met Kelly. Then she talked about Kongsi. So talking about setting up a consumer co-op to build a community. Then I having like a eureka moment. It's like, that's the answer to the problem. So the main back problem, the only solution is ourselves. It's the people problem. So it's because the technology itself is not so complicated. We can build it easily. Just that how we take all this kind of issue, having the price war, the cheaper price, is the community itself. If people come together and they buy into the idea, they support the whole idea, then you won't have this kind of issue. So the first Kongsi idea actually is the sharing about the tamu, the food system. So for me, the shared idea is just like sowing the seeds. So not expect it to sprout immediately. So we have to wait for the right time. So it's better than just keep the idea and it will stop growing. So I throw the idea to Kongsi. I think now something we start to see coming out is like the CSS program, the community support agriculture. So it's actually part of this kind of solution to our current food system. So seed is community. So we cannot achieve with just few people. We need the entire kampong to on board. So if we come together, I think there's only way we can solve it. So for the past few years, as I doing farming all over the places, I also been sharing and getting seeds from different people, different community, doing seed exchange. Because I believe the best seed bank is community seed bank. It's a living seed bank. Because as you continue growing, the seed becomes stronger. So if you just keep it inside the fridge, the seed stop growing. So it start improving. Probably by the time you took it out, it cannot adapt to the current environment anymore. So the best way is you keep sharing it out more. As more people planting it, then you can get better outcome. So we have to come together to do. So another things I do is also called SEEDS. Is with another international NGO. It's called Social Enterprise for Energy, Ecological, and Economic Development. So what this thing does is actually the integrated ecological part into micro hydro community. So last time what they've been doing for micro hydro, they use water to produce electricity. And that's why we need to conserve the watershed area to ensure the consistency of the river flow. But this become an issue when it's not generate any incomes for the community. So they're having hard time try to protect the forest, try to protect the watershed. So I think a few years ago, we come up with this kind of idea. We don't want all this community, especially those rural community, been rely on outside funding donation. So we make them into social enterprise. So they integrated their system with their food system. So we put the farming part and economy part into the whole community. So the seed initiative is for all the microhydro communities in the marginalized regions of Asia Pacific, Latin Americas, and Saharan Africas. We cover over 25 countries. So part of the thing we do is knowledge exchange. Then we build the e-learning platform. We get all the experts and design the module for all of them can actually learn from expert and actually implement within their communities. So this is like the idea itself is seeds, so we can spread without border across. So with that, I think we need to rebuild the trust within the community. So what we can do, part of it, of course, joining Kongsi or community program which are similar to Kongsi, and just keep growing, keep sharing, keep caring. So everyone is part of the ecosystem. We can start small and let's grow the seeds together. And with that, I think that's all. That's all. So any questions that you may ask?
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand, or you can type in the chat box. Perhaps then I'm sure Yong Ling is happy to answer your questions. Or you have some feedback that like to share with us after hearing Yong Ling's sharing. Yeah,
Yeah,
you can have one or two to share.
Yeah, I saw some questions. Thomas Chan asked, yeah, is it need a lot of water as well? So the natural farming method, actually, we don't need to build irrigation. So it actually rely on the capability of soil to retain the water. So the focus actually is the soil itself. So once the soil is healthy, right, actually it can retain water for a long period of time. So which doesn't require irrigation, or only maybe during the initial stage, but my whole farm is without irrigation.
There's
So
another question.
the how to get the seeds.
Yes, from you.
One way is the seed market, the upcoming seeds market on 23rd this month. So I was selling some of it over there, but most of it there's one plan with it. I'm going to do the pre-order because I'm not going to stock up a lot of this heirloom seed and it become degraded, I think, over the times. So what I'm trying to do a trial is do pre-order, but you have to wait probably for 2 or 3 months for me to produce it. So if that is okay, then you can start order for me. So I will kickstart it on the 23rd of July this month.
Yeah, so they can come to the market and meet you, right?
Yes. So the online order will having it later, so not so soon. So the faster way is come to the market, then we do the trial run first, because it's still quite a new idea. So
do you need to prepare the slang or the soil? I think for this.
okay, so I think it's the similar questions. It's like how to turn infertile land into the I think to regenerate the soil. So in natural farming is we plant the right crops on the right soil. So if your soil are degraded, so usually if you can notice, right, the degraded soil will grow a lot of we call it the lalang, the noxious weed. So actually those weeds are came to help to recover. So what we need to do is actually plant more of this and stop doing tilling, because it's actually compacted the soil. It make it worse. What it does of tilling actually is only smashing the top 3 to 6 inches of topsoil, but they at the same time compress the soil underneath it, so it become a water resistant layer down underneath. That's why a lot of commercial plant, they actually very scared of rain, because whenever it's rain, they're having waterlogged issue, and that actually damages the soil. So what we do, we actually plant a lot of deep root plants, especially those weed, helping to crack the soil, and a lot of legumes plants, which help to do the nitrogen fixing, also which the NPK, N is referred to nitrogen. So those plants, as you plant, it actually increase the organic matter within the soil. So there's a step by step, I think it is a ways of how to do. I think I will do the sharing. I think probably another session on this. So it's not so complex, but it's also, I think, require a lot of observation and understanding about plants. So then it can turn out like what you can see in the Muazzam photo in Pahang. So what they've been doing is, I think, similar. So yeah, hope it answer your questions. The more detail, I think it require more like longer session on it, or probably just came to the farm. It probably easier to understand once you see how I do it. And yep, when we go to Angela on how to preserve the seed. Okay, so the best way to preserve is sun dried. Once you make sure it is properly dried, you keep it in airtight container of Ziploc bags, and you keep it in fridge. So with that, it can last for about 1 to 2 years. So it basically slow down the degradation. So if outside less than 1 year, then the seed probably cannot germinate at all. Okay, sorghum processing. Yeah, sorghum is one interesting thing. It actually doesn't require processing. So, but you need to do a bit of cracking of the outer layer because it's water resistant. Otherwise, no matter how long you soak it, it will still be hard before you cook it. Okay, I answer one by one. Yes, lalang to fix the soil. Yes, lalang is one of it, or anything similar to the grassy family. So if you look at it, lemongrass is also the same family to lalang. So lalang you cannot eat, but if you want to have produce and fixing the soil at the same time, lemongrass or the serai is a good option. But not just plant serai, so you need to intercropping with other legumes plants or legumes trees. So it will expedite the regenerative process. Okay. Next one is composting. Am I doing? I'm not doing the typical composting. So not the one, the compost piling. I'm doing sheet composting, is the compost on the surface. So it's like just exactly like the compost process which happen in the forest. The leaf and branches drop on top and it decomposts naturally. So I just chop and drop. So I plant a lot of plants for organic matter, not just for produce. So there's compost. So what's this do I have now? I do have a list of it, around 200 different varieties. Yeah, it's a long list, but mainly the edibles. So I'm trying to focus on the more local edible leaves and plants. So those you usually see in the shop, like the what do you call it? the sawi, the carrot, those cannot produce seed. I try not to plant because it's actually not suitable for the weather here. But you can try. If it can survive and produce the seed, then you probably have a lowland varieties of this kind of plants. So that we call the highland veggie. I've not had them in the plant or less. So more of the lowland vegetables and fruits. Yes, I will come out with it. Probably this, I will work on the details with Samantha. We probably will have it in Kongsi Academy, hopefully soon. So more people can actually, get to know. Alum seed online, we're not sure whether they are alum or not, because I think it's still not very common nowadays. So most of them they produce either in the control environment or their control farm for those seed producer. So they usually sell F1 hybrid. So alum is difficult, but you can do on your own. So you can buy the hybrid seed, then you plant it. So I think after few generations, you start to get a more stable plants, which means that having the similar characteristic, and that is the alum itself. So you can actually produce your own alum by planting the hybrid. Just don't get the GMO seeds because it's not even natural seed. It's a totally different thing altogether. So what's the market and the farm or seed market? What you mean by, or you mean where is the market and the farm? So the market is at the Kongsi house. So my farm is in general. Is it the questions? If I answer it not wrongly, you let me know. Yes. So the hybridizing is possible. So that's what I've been doing. So you may having 2 or 3 different types of plants having different kind of looks as you grow them after 2 or 3 generations, but it's normal because hybrid means you crossbreed 2 or 3 similar which plant has at the same family, having special characteristic. So once as you grow them, actually it will revert back. So you can actually be hybridize it or make it into alum. Yes. Yet I do concentrate more. The priority is on native plants and seed. So the first priority, because we are losing them. I think as people don't know about them and people stop planting them, once we lose them, it's very difficult to get it back. So that I think that's the first priority. Then the second will be the alum. So then the third will making our own alum, the hybridized seed. Yes. So for seed saving, keep only in the freezer. No, in the fridge, not in the freezer. So the freezer will actually damage the seeds. So always keep it at the lower section, not the top section of freezer. So your seed may not germinate after you froze it. So must be careful. So in the fridge, temperature around I think 10 degrees or 5 degrees Celsius, but not the frozen. Yes. Yeah, I think, did I manage to answer most of it?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we need to arrange or another, session, like all together, all this interests, like just now all the friends asked, right, Yong Ling? So that we
Yes.
have another time, to go further and deeper on this, on their questions. Because I think this is another part of information and learning. It takes like more hours, few hours to do that.
Yeah, I think definitely we need more like this kind of sharing session. I think to even discuss about this kind of topic, because it's not enough. I think we need more people to do, because there's no so-called guideline or references. A lot of farming methods are actually from overseas, from the climate and the temperate country. So some of the method may not suitable for us. It's like our temperature, the tropical temperature are different. So the methods over there are different. They're having 4 seasons. And what they do may not suitable. Like one example is we're having super hot sun and super heavy rain. They may not have it over there. And we have no winter at all, or summer throughout the years. So I think the farming practices is different. We need to find our own which is suitable for us. Then we can save a lot of work. So yeah, there are more questions coming in. Yes, high humidity is a great challenge. It's very difficult, because once you leave it outside, it will get moldy, and it degraded very fast. So aside of keeping in the fridge, I think the best way is keep planting it. So the best way is keep it alive, and more people planting it. So once you lose it, or if got disease or pest, then you will know. You give it to this friend or this kampong, then you can always go back to them and get from them again. So that's what I've been doing. It's like because it won't have enough space in my fridge to keep all the seeds. So the best way is give away, and more people will help you to keep it alive. Cross-pollination issue, yes, it may happen or it may not happen, but cross-pollination across different species is rarely happen. It's very hard to happen, or even if it happens, it's not stable. Then it will revert back very like even 1 or 2 generations. So it is okay. I think it's plant. You can plant different types of plant together, and the hybridization happen naturally in the wild also. So some of the heirloom plants we have it right now may not look like this 100 or 1,000 years ago. So because of the crossbreeding naturally, then it become the current look. So it's okay. I think it's even better, because the plant will find their own way to survive. So for those to survive, it's actually easier for us to grow it again. So that's the thing we should do. GMO, oh yes, GMO seed, no. Also, sorry, I missed out the, yes, try not to plant GMO. We don't know what is the risk, what is the danger of it. Once it's cross-pollinate, then there's no way you can get rid of it. But nowadays, I think only the more commodity, the common crops we have it is like the corn, the soybean, some paddy, those more common major crops, they have the GMO variety. But other than that, I think less, because it's not really making money. So still not yet, but there are some. In Malaysia, we don't implement a law to enforce labeling on GMO seeds. So we just need to be careful ourselves. Yes, LMC online, it's hard to identify which one is heirloom or not. So the best way is you get it and you plant it on your own to produce your own heirloom seed. So any seed, whatever you want, is like the cherry tomato. I have it because I like to eat. Then that's why I keep planting it until it adapted to the lowland environment. So you can do it on your own. So regardless is high heirloom or not. So but you can easily check it out whether or not is what we call it neutralized or been here for a long time online, if you know the name of the plant. So that's one you can always check.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay. Last 2 questions, I think. All right.
Yeah, of
Where
course,
can you get to know native plant? Unfortunately, there are limited resources. I also having hard time to get to know. But there are a lot of books about native plants in Malaysia, but just that it's not easy to get. So they are doing a lot of research, like even free. They're having a lot of good books about all these native plants, like in Malaysia or in tropical country, but just that it's not available outside or it's limited edition. So hopefully we can have some like database, open source regarding this. Yeah, we can find ways to do so that more of us will know. Oh yes, okra seed for sure. If you have other colors, red okra, different sizes okra, I think yeah, that is more welcome to share. I think. Hey, someone is from Chendiriang. Okay, you are in Chendiriang. Yes, we can keep in touch. So if you drop by, I'm about 15 minutes away from the town. Not exactly in the town. Yeah. Muddy. Yeah, this one we cannot really blame them because we are prioritizing profit. So it's profit driven. All this heirloom native seed is not really profiting company, because imagine everyone can produce their own seeds, right? There's no way for the company to make money. So actually it's good for community for us, but it's not for the business. Yeah. All right. I think that is all we can continue.
Can I ask, I saw a question saying that how to turn infertile land into a fertile soil. Do you have some kind of tips?
Yes, I think just now I answered briefly, but there are a few steps. The summarize of it is through observation first. You observe the plants around your soil. So usually the plant which grow well is actually the plant will help you to recover the soil. So especially those weeds grow, actually is the indication. So like just now the small flower or the lalang, they actually indicate your soil are hard and dry. So then the lalang can thrive. So then from that, you know what type of plant to actually plant more to expedite the process. So we call it the succession of the soil, the succession of the land. So every stage you have different plant, then we should help you the expedition of the entire regenerative process. So the best plant to plant on the degraded soil is the tapioca, the lemongrass. You can plant bananas, and as diverse as possible. So whichever will live, you leave it there, and you just keep on adding more. Then the soil will actually recover on its own. So the method, I think, I will find a way to actually come out with the modules. So having session, I think, is better that way to learn hands-on and how to do. And because it's different soil require different way of doing it. So but the concept is the same. So I think I'm planning to share out the concept, and then you can actually come out with your own way how to do. So that I think stay tuned. I think with Kongsi Academy, we're trying to work something out regarding this. Yeah. So there are more things. So no, I don't make fertilizer, but I do compost my food waste, then address. If I share out, but I still won't. I won't let people in yet. So I'll share out soon. So if you can search Greenwish Veggie Garden, you can find it on Google. But I think make appointment first before you come. Yeah. Right. So over to Samantha.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Yong Ling. Thank you so much for sharing with us, your passions and connection with the seed. And from the story, it seems like you start things very young. Yeah, it's like there is a seed sprouting in your heart, for years. Yeah, and now you turn it, this passion into action. And from the sharing, actually quite in touch me. It's like it's like not more than just a growing or farming, a plant, but this is a community building a connection. Yeah, so it's not that just you're keeping a seed and you plant for the fruit of God. That is important, but the whole thing is how the community can be realized with the seed saving together, and everything after that is related to the food system, where from a small tiny everything start from a seed is very tiny things, but it can grow big, and there's a linkage in between. Yeah, so what's the seed inside your heart? Yeah, you can find it. Yeah, and okay, last before we end this session, I have information just like to share a quick share with you. So this is the info. This is the market that just now Yong Ling introduced. Yeah, we have this upcoming recycle day and seed market on the July 27th, which is Sunday, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And as earlier mentioned, Yong Ling mentioned, he will be there to meet everyone. So if you like to find more about seed and like to do some seed exchange, then you can drop by. Well, welcome to the market. We have not only have we have a food, and we have you can meet the farmers and the food producers as well. So another one, then another coming event is we will have Linda Thomas, the author of Why Cleaning Has Meaning, to share with us bringing well-being into your home. This is a community's education, where we're collecting some fees also to support Linda Thomas' organization, Cleaning Has Meaning. Yeah, he do a lot of the teachings about why cleaning has a meaning and how the cleaning action can turn to the inner development as well as the community well-being. Yeah, so stay tuned for this coming sharing session. And last but not least, we will have an elderly care in our time, which is for in August 19 and 20. Why we have this conference? Because we see that aging is a wonderful process, and it's very important, as most of the aging population increase in most of our country now, and how we handle this life process and how we view this aging process is such a wonderful, or age people is such a wisdom, it's not a burden, how we can enjoy if we are when we are aged. Yeah, so we have Rolf Heining, our dear teachers from Germany. He's the founder and director of Academy of Anthroposophic Nursing in Germany, and he will be here to share with us and to guide us about this topic, elderly care in our time. So we will share all this information in our Telegram as well as in our Facebook, and stay tuned for the further information. All right, thank you everyone for attending, joining us tonight. And we hope that you have a good time and enjoy the sharing the story with Yong Ling, and hope that there's a small seed now sprouting in your heart, and you try, and let's look for what's a seed inside. Yeah. So thank you, Yong Ling, once again, and stay tuned for our next month Kongsi Idea, which is the theme is wellness. Yeah, who will be the guest? Good night. Thank you.